Hey, Howard from CycleVan. SprinterWorld.com is the website that has all our Sprinter accessories on. Today we're going to talk about adding a brake control to the Sprinter that has factory trailer wiring. If you purchased a Sprinter recently, especially the 2019 and newer, a lot of them are coming through with the trailer wiring package already on, and you'll have this socket dangling by the back step bumper, either usually with a wire tie or taped up somewhere, or sometimes it's even dangling like that. But the fact that this is here shows us that this vehicle is pre-wired for the trailer lights, but the brake control is not installed yet. We're going to do that today. So when you buy the kit from us, you're going to have a brake control from Draw-Tite, the mounting bracket. This is the bracket that you're going to mount the socket that we were just looking at up out of the way, so that you can plug into this thing. This will either mount to the trailer hitch, or you can screw this right to the underside of the step bumper. But this is gives you a place to bolt that right to. We've got a flexible fish wire. This will allow you to snake the wire in the path that we're going to show. And we got these two little pigtails that make this job real easy. We'll show you how these go. Now, in the case of this particular Sprinter, and the fact that we were doing a video on this, we decided to pull the driver's seat out and set it aside, because you're going to have to finagle your hands underneath this cover here, and there's a bunch of stuff under here you have to work around. Now, if you decide to take the seat out like we did, which isn't necessary, but it makes things easier, you're going to need a variety of screwdrivers and sockets and such. These screws here that remove this panel, which allows the mat to come out. Which then exposes the battery cover, which we loosened the fasteners on these already, and then the battery's exposed. That's going to be a pathway for us to run our wires. And then if you do want to take the seat out, these are the screws that hold the tracks down, but this is kind of cool. It's just a 3/8 socket, 6-point, takes them out beautifully. Now, this is very important. This yellow plug that goes to the underside of the seat is the airbag driver restraint system plug. And you do not want to unplug this without disconnecting the negative power from the battery first. Since we expose the battery here, you can pop the negative here, or there's a little quick disconnect right behind this plastic panel that you can pull and actually disconnect the negative in 2 seconds. But you're going to want to take negative power away before you disconnect this yellow plug and take the seat out. Now, we've got this cover. We're going to remove this, just set it aside for now. Now let me move it out of the way. And then we're going to use this flexible snake that you get with your kit to find the pathway from this duct to the underside of this base. Having a flashlight is kind of mandatory, so we're going to snake this plastic in. And you can see it right down here. You can see it moving down in here. And I'm going to get a needle nose pliers and just grab it. So we're going to connect our pigtail to that. So I got this routed in. That was pretty easy. Sometimes you got to fiddle with it a little bit, because depending on the quantity of electrical options that the Sprinter has, there could be a lot more wire and cable entries going through this ductwork. So sometimes you got to spin this snake a little bit. The beauty about this is that this isn't metallic. It's just a nylon, like a piece of nylon plastic, flexible plastic, that you don't have to worry about shorting anything out. So once that's through, we're going to attach the end of our one pigtail and we're going to pull it through. So this is the pigtail that we're interested in at this very moment. And the reason is because if you look, you got a green connector on this one, and the Sprinter, which is pre-wired, of course, in this case for trailer wiring, also has this green plug. This was existing underneath the seat base. So sometimes it's in the front, sometimes it's in the back, but it's in there. If that plug is in the back at the bumper for the trailer the connector, this is going to be underneath the seat. You just got to find it. So what we're going to do is connect this to this, but not now. We're going to run this snake through first, and we're going to connect this later. Don't connect this now. Okay? So you're going to take this And you're going to tape it up because you're going to pull that through. Okay. I'm going to feed that in as we go. We can snap this together without any hindrance, but we're still not going to do it now. The reason why we're not doing this now is because there's live power on this right now. There's one of these wires in here is a supply wire, 12-volt supply, and it's hot right now. So there's no point for us to connect this and then have to fiddle with connections over here and possibly, pop a fuse. We don't want to do that. But I just want to establish the fact that we have room to plug this in comfortably, and we'll be able to set this aside once we plug it in. Now the other pigtail in the kit is the one with the black plug. That pigtail is going to connect right to the back of the brake control, which we're going to mount right here. So in order to facilitate that, we are going to connect these two pigtails. So one that you just snaked in has wire colors that match this other pigtail. So we're going to connect these together wire for wire, and in this case I'm going to stagger the butt connectors so I don't have a big blob of butt connectors. They'll be staggered and nice and sleek, and then we'll be able to tape them up nice and neat. I'm going to do that in a second, but this is how we're going to do this, and ultimately we're going to route this cable up underneath here. Now, one question that was posed to me was why don't we just connect these two pigtails together right from the get-go and then snake it. The problem is that this green connector, a little bit on the large side. You're really not going to get this through this ductwork. So that would be nice if it was a 1, 2, 3 like that, but it's not. But how hard is it really to match color to color? So that's what we're doing. Okay, so I got my connections done, wire color to wire color. I staggered the connections so that when I tape them up, it's nice and skinny, nice and neat. You like it like that. And then you got this little mesh covering you can kind of pull over a little bit. So start to tape it there. Wrap it around and everything's protected real nice. All right, now we're going to snake that through. The reason why we took this cover off the battery box is because we're actually just running this through. This way this isn't underneath the mat getting stepped on and crushed. It's protected well, and it goes right down through. And you're going to snake this up right through this little flap that snaps open, and then we're going to leave a little bit there. We're going to shove the excess down there. Let's see, that looks like a proper amount, and we're going to put the cover on and the mat and everything back in now before we mount that brake control. Now the brake control is going to be mounted here. You can mount it pretty much any place, but right here, it's kind of out of the way nicely, and you can get to the brake control. Why is that important? Because there is a manual override that you can apply the trailer's brakes independently of the car's brakes through that button, and you want that accessible to you. And also there's a readout on there and some adjustment knobs that are right at your fingertips with that brake control manual. Now that our wires run, we can connect these two green plugs. There's two little fins on here, that ridges that go right into the plug and snap right in. Give it a tug, that's nice and secure, and just lay that down as neatly as you can. Right, so now we're going to mount the brake control, and again we're putting it here right near toward the center console as opposed to here, even though this might look like a smart place to put it. You put this here, you're going to be whacking your knee getting in and out, and I don't think that makes a whole lot of sense. So the location of this brake control is flexible. I like to bring it down kind of the face of the brake control, kind of even with the dash, and move it away here about a finger thickness. And I'll put some tape on there. I'm going to put a pencil mark where I want to mount that. Could be right about there. Okay, so we got this located right where our marks are. And we're going to make sure that that's level. So right now I got one screw in. And I'm going to peel the tape off. Oh, one more thing. I check behind here with my flashlight, like I do every time, to make sure that there's no electrics or other critical stuff before I put these short little screws in. You know, it's easy to say, it's going to be okay, but you got to look behind. It's real easy to see right in, and there's nothing in the way. Even though I've done this a bunch of times, I still check. Okay, so nice and level. Okay. These two little grooves in the back, they slide in there. And it's snapped into place. You have a little bit of an adjustment if you wanted to bring this down a little bit, like that. So anyway, we're ready to button this thing up. I'm going to put the covers back on, put the seat back in, then connect the negative after this is plugged back in. One thing worth mentioning is when you're putting back the battery cover, we've got the areas where the duct back here goes right under this, and then over here we got the wires coming up through. We just added a wire. Now my butt connectors are right here. Just shove them forward a little bit, and we're going to want to make sure that the battery box is not crimping any of our wires. And there we go. That's all. Just a thought that worth mentioning. I plug that seat yellow connector back in, then I connected the negative. I failed to mention earlier, before you disconnect the negative on the Sprinter, whether you do it at the battery or back here, which is preferable. I like disconnecting it back behind here. You got to wait about 10 minutes after the vehicle was running. So if you pull the vehicle in a driveway and you're getting ready to do an installation like this, you're going to disconnect the negative. Just wait about 10 minutes after you shut the Sprinter off before you disconnect the negative. So I'm going to snap this panel back into place. That's all there. And then we're going to put a wire tie with a screw into the underside of the dash to keep this pigtail nice and tight. And then the installation is done. All right, so we got the brake control all mounted. As you can see, it's pretty much out of the way, but it's where you need it. There's this override that applies brakes to the trailer brakes independently of the truck. You got adjustments for the brake intensity. You're going to want to adjust that once you have a trailer hooked up. The instruction manual shows you how to do it, but you're definitely going to want to make sure that it's a simple operation, but you want to make sure that your brakes are adjusted to match the truck and the Sprinter and the trailer you're towing. When the trailer is heavily laden as opposed to empty, then you're going to want this adjustment to be a little bit different from one condition to the other. In the back right now, we have a test box hooked up to our to the Sprinter's 7-pin plug. So there's a little C glowing on the LED display, which means connected. That means there's a trailer wire harness, either a trailer or in our case we have a test box back there that's connected, and it shows a C. If there was nothing there, it would say NC. And then after a while that image goes away. It doesn't stay on all night. I think when you press on the brakes, the NC lights up again. But the brake control has a little display to tell you the status of the wire being connected or not connected. And that's it. So if you look in the back, we got this test box that that's our test box, and that shows which lights are working. Here's the brake control. I'm hitting the button with my finger, the override, and when I press on the brake pedal, you can see it glowing slightly. That's because there's no load on the accelerometer. The accelerometer is a little sensor inside the brake control that distinguishes how and when to apply brakes. So that's that. Anyway, the job's done. Customer can take the vehicle and hook up a trailer and make its adjustments, and he's good to go. So this product it comes in a box with the brake control, the pigtails, the connectors, and the installation, as you can see, is very straightforward. So if you want to order that, go to sprinterworld.com, and thanks for visiting us today.